Okay.
Tonight is the beginning of the NFL season. Dun, 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 dun. That has nothing to do with anything except this. Trees? What is this? Trump compromises? So, very serious stories, light stories, and then the first segment is going to be nothing but fun. But lastly, just as we gear up here, are you guys seeing this? That's Rosa Parks holding a resist sign. That is an awesome t-shirt. Shop TYT.com. I'm sorry, but it's happening. It's already on there. Shop TYT.com. Men's, women's, different colors. It's like my favorite shirt of all time. Immediately. Instantly. Sorry. Hashtag not at all sorry. Let's go over here for the first story. Okay. Start with a little bit of fun. Okay, Trump's going to North Dakota. There are some political implications here, but we are not going to cover that. Instead, we're going to have nothing but fun here. He apparently randomly brought Ivanka Trump because she apparently wanted to come. We're going to have a wonderfully awkward moment with Donald Trump here. Let's watch.
Come on, honey. Should I bring Ivanka up? Come on. Sometimes they'll say, he can't be that bad a guy. Look at Ivanka. No, come on up, honey. She's so good. She wanted to make the trip. She said, Dad, can I go with you? She actually said, Daddy, can I go with you? I like that, right? Daddy, can I go with you? I said, yes, you can. Where are you going? North Dakota. I said, oh, I like North Dakota. Hi, honey.
That's so weird, man. You're such a weirdo. Please stop talking. She said, Daddy, can I come with? Oh, please, for Christ's sake, where are you going? But why did you want to go with him in the first place if you don't even know where he's going? Oh, yeah, North Dakota. We love North Dakota. By the way, Chief of Staff John Kelly, I'm going to make it slightly political, was on the trip as well as Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin and a couple of senators, including a Democratic senator. They were making deals. She didn't care about North Dakota, so she didn't want to miss out on any of the political dramas going on the plane. Anyway, but she finally comes up. Let's watch.
Hi, North Dakota. We love this state, so it's always a pleasure to be back here.
No, they've never been there before in their lives. Look, to be fair, I didn't look it up. Okay. Were they there during the primaries and the general election? Maybe. Probably. Have the Trumps ever traveled to North Dakota outside of a political context? Ain't no Trump Tower in North Dakota. There's no Sun Valley like there is in Idaho. There's no fancy places. We love North Dakota. I wish there was a reporter. You said, please. Name me one thing you like about North Dakota. It's next to South Dakota. Okay, let's keep it going.
You treated us very, very well in November and have continued to. So we like sharing the love back. Thank you.
Thank you, honey. Thanks, baby. Come.
Yeah, stop it. Okay. By the way, why did you bring her up? We love you, North Dakota. Thank you. Thank you, Daddy. They are so weird. All right, not an important story. We don't need to go to DEFCON 1 or 5, whichever one's more important here. I'm just having fun, that's all. Have fun with me. Go. That's it. I'm done with the story. I'm done with it. That's all there was. Okay. All right, next story. Okay. Apparently, InfoWars has a reporter named Owen Schroyer. No, that's actually his name. As far as we know, but everything they do is fake, so you never know. And he went to an anti-Trump rally, and he went and talked to, apparently, women that were at that rally, and he decided to pick on a little girl. It didn't turn out well for him. Let's watch. How are you, young man?
You're an idiot.
Wow, who taught you that language?
My mother.
So your mother taught you that foul language?
In the car.
And why am I an idiot? Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh. That is, oh, my God. God bless bless her heart. Boy, did they have that coming. I don't know if she was mad at him because she knows what InfoWars is, and she was afraid that that guy was 80% bear, 80% chicken, 80% gorilla. I don't know. Okay, although he looks like a humanoid. You got to ask Alex Jones about that. Or because what a dick! He comes up to a little girl and goes, "What does she say? How are you, young man?" So either way, he more than had it coming. God bless your heart. Now that's a true American patriot you just watched there in that little girl. That's all. That's all I got on that story. Nothing but fun. Okay. Okay. I keep rolling. Okay. So we have right-wing websites like Breitbart, and they, from time to time, will yell at the mainstream press and say, "Fake news!" Now, look, I think the mainstream press has a lot of issues, and we give what I view to be a legitimate critique of them, and I will point out facts and statistics and polls that show that they are wrong. That's not the direction the right wing goes. So instead, they yell at the mainstream press, and then they turn around and do stuff like this. They have an article now on Breitbart, and the headline is 2,139 DACA recipients convicted or accused of crimes against Americans. Okay, we're going to break down how misleading that is in 1,000 different ways. First of all, let's just note that the piece sources previous articles by Breitbart. So, do they actually have evidence that that's the amount of crimes that were committed by DACA recipients? They're like, our evidence for our Breitbart piece are our earlier speculative Breitbart pieces. And if you notice, in the title, it said, convicted or accused of crimes. Really? You looked up accused of crimes. Okay, anyway, super vague. All right, let's keep going. And then the writer, John Binder, says that this is a, quote, a staggering amount. Is it? Is it? There's 800,000 DACA recipients. So we did the math because Breitbart, of course, doesn't believe in math. So, percentage of DACA recipients convicted or accused of crimes, if you believe Breitbart and their earlier Breitbart pieces, is in reality only 0.26%. And that's not even true. Wow, your stunning revelation of staggering numbers was a quarter of 1%. By the way, many different actual news articles have pointed out that actual American citizens are convicted of crimes at much higher rates. Staggering! But that's not even why I'm doing this story. That's usual nonsense propaganda for the right wing. I was more amused by the picture that accompanied this story. Because I know they don't like fake news. I know it. So they had this picture up. Oh my God, look at these DACA recipients throwing out gang signs. They look very dangerous. No wonder there's been a staggering number of crimes committed by these DACA recipients. If you haven't guessed by now, that is not DACA recipients. That is a photograph of members of MS-13 or Mara Salvatrucha. I cannot pronounce that. All right. That's an actual gang and a really, really dangerous one. So, whereas dreamers are overwhelmingly 97% either in school or have jobs, incredibly productive members of society, a good percentage of them have started their own companies and hiring other Americans, 16% of them own houses. They are not pictured at all there. They're like, who cares? All we do is lie. Oh, the mainstream news. Oh, I'm so shocked and chagrined by their fake news. Let's do more fake news! Anyone who trusts Breitbart, well, let's just say they're not very bright. Bart. God, that was terrible. It was almost worse than their picture. Okay. All right, they're nonsense, man. They're the originators of fake news, and you know it. And everything they do gives you ample evidence of that. I'm already done with the first segment, man. This show is like a freight train. Where is it going? No one knows. But it's a little bit out of control. Okay, now we do have to bring it down a little bit because we're going to talk about Hurricane Irma, and that is devastating when we come back. But the good news is coming. Democrats actually got a good deal. Oh, I'm over here. The Democrats actually got a good deal from Donald Trump, which is amazing. Republicans are pissed. You're going to love the way we cover that. Come back.
knew that healthcare could be so complicated. You said I had small hands. They're not smaller. I never heard that one before.
Brett has a cat. I'm moving away from the controversial stuff we were discussing prior to this going live to talking about pussy. Because it's a pussy cat.
Here's the thing. I think that cats are dumber. Everyone thinks that cats are smarter because they found a way to just, like, not care about you and have a home and food.
Right.
Like, cats are stupid. They're like children. Like, cats, everything they do, it's like, cat, do you want to take a bath right now?
Yeah.
Because you're fucking gross. And they're like babies and, like, toddlers. We're like, no, this is how I do it.
Yeah.
I just lick it. And you're like, are you sure that's a good idea? Because I think you might get hair caught in your throat. And the cat's like, no, it's fine. They're stupid. And then, like, they're just like babies where it's like, I pooped, and then it's like, so you want to poop outside? No, I poop here. It's fine because I bury it. Like, they're idiots. They're like children. And then dogs are like husbands in sitcoms.
Why?
Where they're just like, listen, when do we eat? And I love you for that. Also, I'm going to try to have sex with you. If you don't want it right now, just roll up a newspaper and hit me.
That's so true. Although Charlie never tries to hump me, always tries to hump Christian. But you know
what? Are
what?
you jealous by that?
No, I'm not jealous. I just think it's interesting because I think Charlie might be a gay dog, and I love him no matter what.
TYT Sports, Jason and Francis here. This is where everybody has to listen. Welcome to TYT Sports, everybody. I am your host, Francis Maxwell. Jason here. Welcome to TYT Sports. Turkey to Jersey. TYT Sports. Steph Curry signed with Under Armour. Tom Brady's mad, by the way. Can you hear me? Fight on TYT Ball! Actually, we will look at the description box below instead of lying about the description box below. And it's a throw another picture of the UK bacon. And another. And if I throw in another one, into your belly, baseball. Alright, back on the air. God damn it, I forgot to do one video. I forgot to show you video 10. Let's cue that up for a real quick second, Aces. Just wanted to add that Alex Jones turned out he was pretty mad at that girl who flipped off InfoWars. This is what happened afterwards. Come on, you're not an intellectual. You're a fake and a fraud. Idiot. Alright, anyways, just having fun. just having fun, as we're about to now. I don't have time for tweets. I'll get it to you later in the program. Remember, shop TYT.com, everybody. TYTnetwork.com/join. Enjoy the whole show, commercial free. Get all the shows. We're over here. We're moving. Okay. You know what? This deserves a little bit of this, okay? We have a little bit of news. That's almost kind of good news. You know what we did? It turns out Donald Trump and the Democrats made a deal, and a deal that makes sense. Wow, didn't see that coming. It was on the debt ceiling, and I thought for sure that Donald Trump would screw this up. The Republicans wanted him to screw it up, so it was a recipe for disaster, but he didn't. So Paul Ryan had said earlier, raising the debt ceiling for a short term, for a short period of time, and combining it with Hurricane Harvey relief aid, that is, quote, ridiculous and disgraceful idea. Okay? Well, interesting. So what happened yesterday? During a meeting with congressional leaders at the White House on Wednesday, President Donald Trump backed a proposal from Democrats to tie aid for Hurricane Harvey to a 3-month debt limit increase, and a short-term government funding bill through December, much to the reported consternation of congressional Republicans. That's kind of awesome. So he had the Republicans in the room. He's like, no, I don't think so. I'm going to go with Nancy and Chuck here. In fact, let me give you more details. Jake Sherman reports Trump agrees to a 3-month debt limit increase in meeting with Hill leaders. All GOP leaders were opposed per multiple sources. Interesting. So the exact thing that Paul Ryan said was ridiculous and disgraceful is the one that apparently they made the deal on, even though there were Republicans in the room going, don't do it. McConnell, who was also in the room, Mitch McConnell, Senate Majority Leader, told reporters that Trump reached a deal with Schumer and Pelosi in the meeting with congressional leaders today. So he's confirming it. So one more here from Talking Points memo. Trump's decision to side with Democrats left conservatives fuming. Senator Tom Tillis, Republican of North Carolina, described the deal as fiscal malpractice, and the Conservative Heritage Foundation blasted the proposal as political cowardice. Damn! So I love it. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, more conservative heads are about to explode. President Trump and Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer have agreed to pursue a deal that would permanently remove the requirement that Congress repeatedly raise the debt ceiling. 3 people familiar with the decision said. So, now look, the debt ceiling is nonsense. It's after we have already gotten the debt, we're saying, should we pay it or should we not pay it? Of course we should pay it. It was ridiculous that they played politics under Obama. The Republicans did. Now the Democrats are saying, we won't do likewise. We won't play politics with it. Let's just raise it. In fact, maybe let's just get rid of it, even though it would give us leverage over you. And Trump's like, all right, great. Then I don't have to deal with this nonsense. And they might have a deal about that. But the people who like to play politics with it are Republican congressmen. And they say, they're all outraged. Tom Tillis' Heritage Foundation, Paul Ryan, he thinks it's a bad idea. And the reason is, every time debt ceiling comes up, they know that we have to lift it. Otherwise, it's going to destroy the full faith and credit of the United States and might mess with the markets completely. So they use it as a hostage to demand tax cuts for the rich, spending cuts for middle-class Americans, et cetera, et cetera. So when they saw that Trump might even do a deal, not only the deal he already did, but one to get rid of the debt ceiling altogether, this was their reaction. Heads exploding. All right. More from the Washington Post now. The two, along with House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, agreed to work together over the next several months to try to finalize a plan which would need to be approved by Congress. Not only is he thinking of getting rid of the debt ceiling altogether, he's working with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. Republican reaction. Not only that, there was a picture taken. I don't know how they get these pictures. Who's the creeper hanging out right outside the Oval Office, and why hasn't the Secret Service removed him? Anyway, they got this picture of Donald Trump and Chuck Schumer smiling together, and Trump almost hugging Schumer. Republican reaction. Fun for everybody, except the Republicans. All right, here's Donald Trump confirming it. On Thursday, Trump was asked by a reporter at the White House about abolishing congressional process for raising the debt ceiling. He replied that there are a lot of good reasons to do that. It could be discussed, he said. For many years, people have been talking about getting rid of the debt ceiling altogether. In other words, he's going to do it. I'm going to continue to have more fun here. Before we go to the next story, I'm actually going to play you guys videos 2 through 5. So this is Paul Ryan's angry reaction. Now, he's trying not to be angry because Trump did a deal with the Democrats on the debt ceiling. So Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, they hugged it out. Everybody's happy except Paul Ryan. But now he can't oppose President Trump because he's in his own party. He's kind of stuck. So let's go to Ryan's reaction.
After yesterday's meeting with the president, do you believe that you have a trustworthy negotiating partner in the president that takes into account the interests of the Republicans?
I do. And look, I know there's a lot of interpretations and all of this stuff about the meeting yesterday. Isn't it a good thing that congressional leaders talk? I mean, that's probably a pretty good thing. Number one. Number two, the president made it really clear. And what he was aiming for in that meeting yesterday was a bipartisan moment while the country is facing 2 horrible hurricanes.
Wait a minute. I didn't hear anything about the hurricanes. I think they just lifted the debt ceiling. He's like, because it was the hurricanes, right? What does that have to do with the issue? Yeah. Yeah. You got to bring the country together. Wait a minute. Didn't you say you hated this potential deal the day before? They asked him about that.
You described the plan to bundle Harvey relief with a raise the debt ceiling as, I think, ridiculous and disgraceful. I'd be curious.
No, I didn't describe it that way. I think you're putting words in my mouth. I described a short-term debt limit. Look, I'm worried about the credit markets and doing this on short-term basis. We can't keep doing it that way. I was making an economic point, which is, with respect to the credit markets, I think stability and longevity are key.
So you did not call it ridiculous and disgraceful. That's putting words in your mouth. Really? Well, let's go to Paul Ryan from yesterday.
I think that's a ridiculous idea. I hope that they don't mean that. Let's just think about this. We've got all this devastation in Texas. We've got another unprecedented hurricane about to hit Florida. And they want to play politics with the debt ceiling? And then they also want to threaten default on our debt? I think that's ridiculous and disgraceful that they want to play politics with the debt ceiling at this moment when we have fellow citizens in need to respond to these hurricanes so that we do not strand them.
God, I love catching politicians in lies. It's my favorite thing in the world. So the day before, he's like, to combine Hurricane Harvey with lifting the short-term debt ceiling, that is outrageous, ridiculous, and disgraceful. Today, that's exactly what they did. And he's like, me? Did I call it ridiculous and disgraceful? No! We had to do it because of the hurricanes. You just said it was a terrible idea to do it in the middle of the hurricanes. Okay. Well, you're putting words in my mouth. I didn't say ridiculous and disgraceful. Really, one more time.
You described the plan to bundle Harvey relief with a raise the debt ceiling as, I think, ridiculous and disgraceful. I'd be curious.
No, I didn't describe it that way. I think you're putting words in my mouth.
You know what? I'm going to do it. Go back to yesterday one more time. Video 4. Did we put words in his mouth, or did he actually utter these words? Let's watch.
I think that's a ridiculous idea. I hope that they don't mean that. Let's just think about this. We've got all this devastation in Texas. We've got another unprecedented hurricane about to hit Florida. And they want to play politics with the debt ceiling? And then they also want to threaten default on our debt? I think that's ridiculous and disgraceful that they want to play politics with the debt ceiling at this moment when we have fellow citizens in need to respond to these hurricanes so that we do not strand them.
Oops. So even though he didn't want it, that they made that deal, and that's why you saw him like, jeez. No, I didn't say that. The Marco Rubio moment for Paul Ryan. Okay, gotcha, big guy. I don't know if you know this. You're on tape, and you didn't say it years ago. You just said it yesterday. Okay, we're moving on. Let's go to Dream On. So not only did Democrats lift the debt ceiling with Donald Trump and strike that deal, they might have a deal coming up for the Dreamers. Wow, that's interesting. So first, let me show you some of the good feelings that Donald Trump has towards Nancy and Chuck, as he's calling them. That's Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer on the debt ceiling issue. He said, we had a very good meeting with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. And political reports, Trump appeared to give Schumer something of a man hug in the Oval Office as grimacing aides looked on. I love that description. So now, when it came to the idea of the DREAM Act, so Trump said, hey, I'm going to end the executive order of Obama on DACA, but he held out a very slim hope in the beginning that, hey, maybe Congress will do something, and if they do, I'm not saying that I'm going to be opposed to that, though. Well, it turns out Nancy Pelosi might have actually talked him into it. And she said, I was telling my colleagues, this is what I asked the president to do, and boom, 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 the tweet appeared. And look, I don't want her to glow too much because I actually want it to happen, but let's look at the tweet now because I think she's right about that. And it says, the Trump then tweeted, for all those DACA that are concerned about your status during the 6-month period, you have nothing to worry about. No action. Okay. So, look, you can't trust anything Donald Trump says, so I'm not going to go and have a party over it. But it does appear that Nancy Pelosi asked him to tweet something, and he did. It was something positive, which is shocking. And so Pelosi then went on to say the president said he supports that, the DREAM Act. He would sign it. We have to get it passed. That's a priority. So what was conservative reaction to that? Hey, wait, should we do it one more time? Let's go to video 11. And here is the tweet version of that. Ann Coulter writing, possible 2020 slogan, I broke my promises, betrayed my friends, and used my office to help my family, but hey, at least I'm not Hillary. Damn, shots fired. Fascinating turn of events for at least on these two issues for at least these 2 days. Apparently, Donnie is now tight with Chuck and Nancy, and conservatives are seething mad. Let's hope it keeps up. Hey, by the way, credit to the Democrats. I don't think that they deserve very much credit on many of the issues, but where credit is due, I am enormously happy to give it to them. So they did get Trump to side with them instead of the Democrats. Raising the debt ceiling is a good thing. Getting Trump to at least promise that he would sign the DREAM Act is a very good thing. So great job, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, on this issue. Okay, so am I not the fairest man in America? Jesus, I'm merciful. All right, now let's go to the last part of the story. Okay. I already love this graphic. Okay, so Donald Trump did the debt ceiling deal with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, and he actually got a lot of credit for it, which makes sense. It's actually a layup. Everybody raises the debt ceiling. You have to raise the debt ceiling, otherwise you'll entirely screw up the credit of this country. You'll screw up the stock market. It's disastrous to play around with it. But anyway, I give credit to the Democrats and Trump for making this deal, and so did the rest of the press. So then we have this report coming out of Politico, which greatly amuses me, because Donnie Tiny Hands was apparently thrilled about this. He says, they say, in calls with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi Thursday morning, Trump raved about the positive news coverage it had received, according to people familiar with the calls, and he seemed very pleased with his decision. He is such an amusing child. He's like, oh, they said nice things about me on TV. Yeah, if you do things that are popular, you get good coverage. It's weird that he's surprised by it, and it's weird how excited he is. What did you think was going to happen? Okay, he says Trump specifically mentioned TV segments praising the deal and indicated he'd been watching in a call with Schumer, two people said. And he was jovial in a call with Pelosi and agreed to send a tweet she asked for about the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. That's the DACA program for Dreamers. These people said while also mentioning the deal had gotten. He indicated that both leaders he would be willing to work together again. So he's like, I got lots of presents. They said nice things about me on TV. Okay, you know what, Nancy and Chuck, I'm in such a good mood. I want to work with you again. You want to do DACA? Sure, who cares? Let's do DACA. But wait, didn't you just try to kill DACA a couple of days ago? Oh, but I didn't know they were going to say nice things about me on TV. What a child. What a child. Good. By the way, great news. TV people, keep saying nice things if he does halfway reasonable stuff. Okay? God, he's unreal, man. He's such... All right. One unnamed White House source said about the positive news coverage he got, which is very rare for Trump, quote, he seemed super upbeat. Yay! And another unnamed White House source said he told Nancy Pelosi he was giddy, and he said that he had gotten good coverage, but so had she. And he said, the press has been incredible. Man, look, this is a positive story overall. I'm glad they did the deal. I'm glad that Trump is happy about it. I'm glad that he wants to make further deals with Democrats, as long as it's deals we're happy with and not on his terms on giant tax cuts for the rich. So overall, good news. But even in his reaction to this, it betrays a naivete about how things work that is borderline shocking. Like, you know that if you make this deal, I mean, look, even you could, if you're a conservative, you could even spin it this way. You know that the press is more in line with establishment Democrats. So if you do a deal with establishment Democrats, they're more likely to praise you. How is that a surprise to you? If you lift the debt ceiling, you know that. How do you not know that the press is in favor of that? And that has nothing to do with them being for establishment Democrats. It has to do with them being rational human beings. So, and then the way that you get so excited if anyone praises you, it's just so sad. He really is a man-child. But I'd rather have him focused on cake news than fake news. I got cake! They gave me cake on TV! Good, Donnie. Keep doing that. Okay, I gotta take a break. When we come back, we're finally gonna get serious. I got Hurricane Irma news. It is unreal, man. Some of the video is unreal, and the devastation is unreal. And then what I'm going to do, the New York Times, is also devastating and unreal. There was an article that I think it was outrageous, and I'm going to explain that to you guys, and explain to you how the media is not at all liberal in reality. They might love the establishment Democrats. That's a different thing. Do they like progressives? Hell no. You'll see when we return.
I just shot a clip. It's time sensitive and it needs to be edited. Did anybody call for an editor? Need this in an hour. Shared editor too. Fuck you. I'm Hassan Piker. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Hassan D. Piker and on Twitter at Hassan the Hun. And this has been The Breakdown. Was that good, guys? Okay. Not enough hashtag use. Hashtag abs, hashtag model, hashtag woke bae. Hashtag one black friend. I'm thinking more rings. I got them here. You need more accessories. Way more accessories. I don't know where to put them. Come on, throw these on. Woke bae, not sleep bae. More sexy, too. When's the last time you posted on Instagram? Too long. Come on, man. No, you need to post at least once an hour. What's the outfit of the day today? Is this what you're going with? No. We need more accessories. We need... This doesn't have anything to do... It doesn't... For your gay audience, man. Yeah, the gays love you, man. Okay. What else? What else do I need to do? You haven't appropriated a culture in a week. We have like a kimono or something. Yeah, that looks good on you, dude. Perfect. How many rings you got on? Do you have any more? I got 3 more. Yeah, can we get more rings on this? And when you're done, kiss the ring. Look at the camera. Kiss the ring. Maybe like a little wink. Islam's role in terrorism and all the Huffington Post articles were doing well. I was thinking, how many likes did our last outfit of the day picture have? Only like 10,000. So I think that's where your focus needs to be. I hear you on all the blah 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 social issues. We need to focus on followers.
Kids in Yemen.
We don't care if you sleep at night.
Dab, dab.
Okay, dab. There you go. More. Talk about yourself more.
I'm Hassan Piker. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram.
Be more into it.
Instagram. This is important for me. Americans losing access to healthcare coverage.
I hear you. Attack Tommy more.
I've done it. So many. She shoots out of her living room now. It's like punching down now.
We're okay with that. It helps the brand. We made you. We got you verified. You're nothing without us.
So I don't know what else I need to do here.
Dude, just take off that shirt.
That's exactly why Tommy Lauren is stupid. I hate you. I'm Hassan Piker. Follow me on Instagram.
#WolfBay.
#WolfBay. Please follow me. Please.
Alright, back on the Young Turks. Let me read a couple of quick tweets for you guys. Woke Poppy says, of course Trump likes Ivanka. Have you seen his sons? That's a good point. I mean, his sons are a mess. He's not winning with his sons. So he's like, I don't know, she seems way smarter than the rest of us. Come up here, baby. Unregistered Chicano writes in, jokes on InfoWars trying to ambush Lyanna Mormont. Excellent Game of Thrones reference. Nice job. And the Great Derp says, when Republican politicians complain there isn't enough bipartisanship, then their heads explode when something does happen. And then one last one. The liberal mom says, I don't think Trump gets politics. He sides with whatever person strokes his ego hard enough. This time it was Chuck and Nancy. I think that's exactly right. He's just not bright enough. I got to be honest with you, not bright enough. Member shout-outs today are Catherine Clark and Michael Carlson. You guys are going to get a wonderful post game today. You've got Dave Cole reporting in. He interviews the TYT reporters and contributors. Ooh, I like that. And we've given you some amazing post games throughout the week, and also, of course, wonderful edition of Old School last night, where we got a post game today for you guys too, of course. The Dave Kohler one's on Fridays. Last night on Old School, we broke down the funniest movies ever with Brett, John. There's a new nickname for him, Yada 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 Rolla. That man had over 1,000 nicknames, and it was me and Ben as well. So check that out if you're a member in Aggressive Progressives tonight at 6 o'clock. So everybody go, but stay. All right, now we got to do serious stuff. Let's go to Irma. Oh, I'm sorry. TYTnetwork.com/join if you want to become a member. Okay. We had Hurricane Harvey. It was devastating. Over 60 people killed, tens of thousands displaced. And then meteorologists told us Hurricane Irma had turned into a Category 5 in the Atlantic Ocean, the largest storm ever recorded in the Atlantic Basin. And nonetheless, after those forecasts, Rush Limbaugh went on air and basically said that it was all hype and that it wasn't real. And he said this.
The reason that I am leery of forecasts this far out, folks, is because I see how the system works. The one thing that's undeniable throughout our culture is that everything has been politicized. And in that sense, much of our public information system, including from the government, from the drive-by media, has been corrupted.
So basically telling folks, you don't have to worry about the storm. It's all politicized, ironically, as he politicizes it, and that it's corrupted information. Well, this is not fake news. This is, unfortunately, deadly real. Hurricane Irma's death toll already, as it rips through the Caribbean, is 13 dead. Its intensity is unreal. It's a Category 5 hurricane. In order to get to a Category 5, you have to have 157 miles per hour. It has a top wind speed of 185 miles per hour. Like I said, the most severe storm ever seen in the Atlantic. And, you know, during Hurricane Harvey, I played clips for you explaining how the warmer temperatures picks up more moisture, creates more severe storms. This is not me saying it. It's not Al Gore saying it. It's almost every scientist in the world explained exactly how that phenomenon works well before these storms. That it happened to Houston in Hurricane Harvey, and now it is happening to the Caribbean. Utter destruction in its path. Hurricane Irma is coming. Not only that, we now have two other storms that I'm going to tell you about as well. Katia and Jose have also formed. There are a number of storms here. Let me show you its path here as you see some of the destruction in the Caribbean. It doesn't look like a war zone because war zones, I'm not sure, look that bad. So it is going to rip through the Caribbean and then go most likely path, and of course these storms do diverge from time to time, is through Florida and some of the other southern states. I'm going to tell you about the reaction there as well. But now let me show you the three storms that are coming. It's not just Irma. Irma is the largest. But as you look at this satellite image from the CNN Weather Center, you've got Irma, a gigantic storm in the middle there. You've got Katia, that is now a hurricane on the Gulf Coast. And you've got Jose, which is now a hurricane, was a tropical storm, but now a hurricane, as they get more and more severe, following right in Irma's footsteps. This is an unbelievable punch after punch after punch. It was Harvey, now three more, all at the same time. CNN explains further, Irma is one of the three active hurricanes in the Atlantic Basin. The last time this happened was in 2010. The others are Jose in the open Atlantic, far to the southeast of Irma, and Katia in the Gulf of Mexico. You know, sometimes you'll hear insane right-wing talking points about how, oh no, we haven't had a hurricane in 12 years, so the climate scientists weren't right. No, there's hurricanes all over. The question is, do they hit the United States of America? But in their limited vision, they're so short-sighted, so self-centered. If it doesn't hit America, it doesn't really count, and climate change isn't real. Does it look fake to you right now? Yes, these are real pictures, real videos. This is actually what's happening with Hurricane Irma. It is unreal. So it's amazing, and yes, in this case, unfortunately, it looks like it's going to hit us as well. Puerto Rico, they say 1 million people might lose their electricity and power and not get it back for a month. Okay, around 2 p.m. Eastern, Irma was moving west-northwest with maximum sustained winds of 175 miles per hour. Irma previously had winds over 180 miles per hour, keeping those speeds longer than any storm ever recorded in the Atlantic Basin. Now, we believe that it is going to hit the United States eventually. We're not the only ones who believe that. It is actually Republican governors and all the governors in the South who believe that. Florida is not the only state preparing for possible impact. Georgia's governor, besides ordering coastal evacuations from Saturday, declared a state of emergency for 30 counties. North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, the South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster also declared states of emergency. Cooper's a Democrat, but the rest of them are Republicans. So, and by the way, Rick Scott in Florida, who declared a state of emergency, has banned his officials inside the state from using the words climate change. Whether you ban the words or not, it's still a reality. So you can't get rid of the concept by banning the words. And by the way, what is that? That is the literal definition of political correctness. Climate change might be scientifically correct, but in the state of Florida, it is not politically correct. So you're not allowed to utter the words if you work for the state. But you've got to prepare, because whether you say the magic words or not, it's coming. And they know it. That's why they've declared a state of emergency in all those states, despite what their right-wing propagandists say. Now, if you think it's bad for us, it's much worse for some of the countries in the Caribbean. Let's go to the Bahamas. The Prime Minister of the Bahamas says this is the largest such evacuation in the history of our country. Some of the islands of the Bahamas aren't more than 9 feet above sea level. Storm surges there may be 20 feet. You get the idea what's going to happen to those islands. That's now Chad Myers, a CNN meteorologist, who said that. If they're only 9 feet above sea level, and the sea surge is 20 feet, doesn't take a
Ronnie had
this is going to be terrible.
coupon to say
Barbuda is already hit utter destruction.
Ronnie had a coupon that said buy one solve get one free.
With nearly all its buildings damaged. To give you more context, about 95% of the buildings in Barbuda, one of two major islands, the nation of Antigua and Barbuda, are damaged.
Have you heard from
95%.
the UN world?
Irma's eye passed directly over Barbuda on Wednesday, leaving the small island's 1,800 residents largely incommunicado
caused a lot of damage in Puerto Rico.
Communication system and cell towers. Now, some of the people who told you about climate change, which are all scientists,
just to see how he's doing.
Islands might literally be underwater, might disappear from the earth. So hopefully the people of Barbuda recover, but right now, their island is absolutely devastated. Almost every building is damaged, every citizen affected, and for a while there, they were cut off from the rest of the world. This is what climate change looks like. So let me show you the path one more time for the storm here. And the reason it gets wider is because the further you go out, the more of a range it has. It can go left, it can go right. So it might hit Miami directly, it might graze Miami, but hit the southern states harder depending on its path. And it has already hit some of those islands, and it is affecting Puerto Rico. Let me show you more pictures. So, Mother Nature ain't nothing to mess with. If it comes for you, there's nothing you can do about it. So winds this strong, the sea rising up. What are you going to do? You're going to move all the cars, you're going to move all the crates, you're going to move all the boats, you're going to move all the buildings? How are you going to do that? You can't. So this is what happens. And again, we're only at the beginning of this storm. We're not at the middle of it. We're not at the end of it. It hasn't even hit the U.S. yet, at least the mainland. And as you can see, complete and utter destruction in some of the places that it has hit. This is really scary stuff, dangerous stuff. And guys, if you hear any idiot on the right or anywhere else telling you that it's not real and that you shouldn't move, for God's sake, don't listen to them. Listen to the authorities, listen to the meteorologists and the scientists. If they say it's headed in your direction, get out. Save yourself, save your family. And like I said, even the Republican governor of Florida now saying, look, don't worry about your house. We can rebuild your house. We can't rebuild your family. You got to go. So listen to exactly what your local authorities are telling you to do and follow up. But I will end on this note. One part of the path of the storm goes through here. Let me pull this up now. It goes potentially right through Palm Beach, where there are two interesting places, Mar-a-Lago and Rush Limbaugh's house. So let's see if he's true to his word and doesn't really believe it and stays right there, right on the ocean. Since I am a progressive and actually care about other human beings, Rush, don't be an idiot. Leave. But we'll see if he follows through or doesn't. And if he runs in a panic, you'll have your answer as to whether he thinks it's fake or not. And if he stays, we have a completely different answer. Science is real. It doesn't care about your emotions, and it doesn't care about your propaganda. Whether you deny it or not, one day it comes a knocking. And that's today. Okay, now, last story for you guys in this hour. There's a huge difference between the right wing and the left wing. The right wing wants to destroy the mainstream media and replace it with its own propaganda. We on the left want to improve the media, so we give from time to time a constructive critique of what I think that they're doing wrong. This is one of those instances. John Herman from the New York Times wrote an article that I think was terrible, shoddy journalism. And the reason for that, and the reason why it got printed and the editor signed off on it, and the New York Times was happy to run it, is because the mainstream media has internalized the right-wing propaganda that it is liberal media. So they do not want to cover the left. They do not want to give it credence. But every opportunity they get, they hype up the right. Oh my God, Rush Limbaugh. Oh my God, Fox News. Did they ever give you proper context? Has anybody ever actually tracked how many listeners Rush Limbaugh has? No, they take this the word of Talkers Magazine, which itself admits that they're making the number up. The mainstream press gives Rush Limbaugh so much more credit and power than he deserves. No one has ever bothered to verify his numbers. Glenn Beck. No one bothers to verify his numbers. He said he had 300,000 subscribers when he launched the place. He says he has 300,000 now. Many years later, which one is it? Did you not gain a subscriber or lose a single subscriber? Nobody ever checks because they go, oh, Glenn Beck, oh, Rush Limbaugh, Fox News. Oh my God, everybody has to listen to Fox News. Do you know the average age of Fox News viewers is 68 years old? They give them way too much power and respect. But when it comes to the left, they literally refuse to cover it. So this is an example of that. So in this article, their thesis of the New York Times was that the YouTube is dominated by the right wing. It is preposterous and completely incorrect, as I will show you the numbers in a second. Let me quote the article for you. They say, YouTube is host to just one dominant native political community, the YouTube right. How can you possibly say that with a straight face? Did you not do a single shred of research for this? So they take, for example, these smaller outlets. I've never even heard of Black Pigeon Speaks, and they say BPS, Black Pigeon Speaks, has by any objective standard a significant and engaged audience at the moment. He has about 215,000 followers, and his uploads have been viewed more than 25 million times. Great! If you think that's a significant following, I assume the New York Times will be writing endless stories about us every single day, because we are so much larger than that. I'm not sure I can do the math on it. 215,000 followers. That's a pimple on our ass. And the New York Times writes a giant story about it. But hey, if you want to say that's important and significant, then you should be covering us nonstop. Hey, I'll do the research for you. I'll give you the numbers, and you should go ahead and actually do some journalism and verify it for yourself. So they say, okay, well, that's a modest-sized one. They say the biggest one is Paul Joseph Watson of InfoWars. He's 35, and they say he's perhaps the archetypal YouTube-right blogger. He has nearly 1 million followers. Ooh. And his videos have been viewed more than 215 million times. Well, that seems like a big number. And they take his word for everything. Now, look, those numbers are actually accurate. The context is what's missing here. And then they take his quote from a tweet. He says, Twitter is a tiny echo chamber. I'm not sure the left understands the monumental ass-whooping being dished out to them on YouTube. Oh, we'll get to the monumental ass-whooping in a second when I show you the real numbers. And what does New York Times do? They just take his word for it. So all that talk of liberal media, and they're like, oh, this insane blogger who has ridiculous, lunatic conspiracy theories says something, it must be true. The very next sentence in the article is, and in terms of sheer numbers and visibility on the platform, the YouTube right is substantial. Okay, well, again, I'll get to it in 1 second. One last quote where they fluff up the right wing. There are countless other forms of political expression on YouTube, but no block is anywhere near as organized or as assertive as the YouTube right, and it's dozens of bloggers, nor is there a coherent group on the platform articulating any sort of direct answer to this budding form of reaction. Really? There's no one with an answer to them, huh? All right, well, let's look at Paul Joseph Watson, see if the New York Times has the right numbers. This is from his YouTube page. And you can see there, yes, he does in fact have over 1 million subscribers, and now up to 226 million views. Well, that sounds like a lot. And if you're a mainstream reporter and you've never, ever seen YouTube and you can't do your job, you might go, well, I got to write an article about that, and then I'm done with it. Well, let me show you our numbers. That is 3.43 million subscribers and 3.7 billion views. What was that about a monumental ass whooping? 3.7 billion views, and that's just one of our channels. That's the flagship channel. Okay, let me show you our smaller channels, which are all great. You should watch them. Think Tank. Hey, look at that. 1.3 million subscribers, more than, the biggest guy on the right. 560 million views. But yet, no one has an answer for the right wing. Let's go to Secular Talk, also on the TYT network. 500,000 subscribers, but look at the view count. 361 million views. I assume there's going to be a giant New York Times article about how Kyle Kulinski on Secular Talk is kicking the living crap out of the right wing on YouTube. Where's your article on that? You didn't do any research, did you? Here's our smaller channels, TYT Sports. Also more views than the biggest right winger they could find. 249 million views there. Pop Trigger, our entertainment channel. Also more views, 237 million views. By the way, great entertainment and sports stuff there. NFL season coming out. Check out TYT Sports. Okay, now for the entire network, if they had actually done the research, TYT across YouTube and Facebook, to be fair, has 7 billion views. But we're actually about to get to 7.5 billion views, as many people as exist on the planet. Now, those are views, not unique viewers. See, unlike them, we're fair. 11 million subscribers. You want to talk about no answer? They have no answer for us. You go on every one of those podunk right-wing channels, you know what you'll find? A video about the Young Turks. Why? Because we're the giants. We dominate YouTube and all of online media. Among millennials, according to ComScore, God, look up any ranking. According to ComScore, among millennials, we beat not these podunk right-wingers, CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News combined. New York Times, it's called research, it's called journalism, look into it. So we took all of the guys that they mentioned as giant big deals in the New York Times, all the right wingers, and we added them up. You got BPS, Paul Joseph Watson, Stefan something or other, Lauren Southern, Stephen Crowder. Wow, that's almost 3 million subscribers, 2,999,000. When you add all of them up, that looks like a lot. Let me see TYT subscribers. Again, not for the whole network, for just one channel. We beat all of them combined. No answer? Are you kidding me? That, I believe, is what is called a monumental ass whooping. And now let me show you another ranking. VidStats X. You can look any ranking you want. Hey, look at that. Who's number 1 on YouTube in the news category? The Young Turks. Number 2 is ABC, and then you have CNN at number 5. Wait. There's a guy I see down there. To be fair, there is another conservative/conspiracy theorist. He's kind of in a planet of his own. But show me the next slide there. Oh, yeah, all the way down at number 10, Alex Jones. And that's their father figure. That's their big daddy, down at number 10. Congratulations, Alex. You made the list. New York Times, I know that you have disdain for the left wing. You never want to cover the left wing. It's true for all the mainstream media. The Tea Party does something, they go ballistic. The left wing does Democracy Spring, the most amount of arrests in Capitol Hill history because of civil disobedience on getting money out of politics. Thousands of people arrested. An amazing moment, no coverage. I asked one of the cable news hosts, I said, if the Tea Party had broken the record for most arrests at the Capitol, would you have covered it? And he begrudgingly said, yes, of course we would have covered it. Because if the right wing does something, the mainstream media goes, oh, we're not liberal media, we're right wing, you're so great, you're so amazing, I won't check your numbers, I won't check any context, right wing, right wing, right wing. When the left wing does something, when progressives in this country do something, it is met with enormous disdain and no coverage at all. So, unfortunately, in this one case, this was the definition of fake news. New York Times, I know they hate you, but we actually want you to do better. This was not better. This was terrible. Young Turks.
Hey, Jack, what's up?
And I'm reading some of the comments on a YouTube video I did. What the cunt? Go.
Hey guys, welcome to TYT Sports. Ben Mankiewicz here, and we have a new guest. And we're delighted to do this. Francis Maxwell is our World Cup expert. We're going to start here with Group A, which is Brazil, Croatia, Mexico.
Brazil and Croatia are going to win this group. Unless weather hit Croatia, then maybe Cameroon. Mexico has no chance. You know who has no chance? The U.S. Literally no chance. Well, not sure if you're trying to piss me off or something, but not quite. What I told you about Mexico was a fact. What you were talking about U.S. was simply an opinion. USA has no chance. That's a fact. Of course they don't. I might have been mistaken, because in football, there's always a chance, even when there's no chance. Like I said, what you gave was an opinion. What I gave you was a fact. Calm the assholeness down. Like I said, in football, there are no facts about results. No one counted on Real when they blasted Bayern 5-0. No one counted when Brazil lost to Mexico in the Olympics. I was trying to be polite, but unfortunately, evictionist got the better. Just like I said, the U.S. has no chance. Personally, I'm rooting for Germany. I just think maybe Brazil and Spain. Screw your BS. We all know it's Crimea for the win.
Well, see it within the first 2 minutes. You're like, these guys are just their back.
Absolutely, I agree. And they've always had that speed about them. It's always been about speed about them.
Hey, Al, I can't remember. Is there a specific blur we use for Miley Cyrus's butthole? Is it like a Gaussian or a mosaic or compound?
I got a bunch of things to go through. No Republican would have ever voted for Bernie. He would have done worse than Hillary Clinton.
are so miserable. All right, I'm gonna stop myself before I say things that are offensive.
If I ran for office, and that would be a trippy day, right? I'd break even more rules than Trump. If I had all the money in the world, I would enjoy that. We have a great show for you. Steve's answer is C. Dave's is A, and the correct answer is, of course, B. You guys are the worst. Here's the story, and it's not funny. It goes over too. It seems just comically unfair and ridiculous. The Democratic Party just sucks right now. It just sucks because it doesn't know what it stands for. We should probably wrap it up. All right, back on the Young Turks. I want to read you guys some comments first from YouTube Super Chat. Patrick Seguin writes in, Jank, you rock. Why, thank you, Patrick. You're very nice for saying that. And Deadpool TY Interwebs writes, #banana. Okay, but God bless your heart. Every time you use YouTube Super Chat, you do help the show. Daniel Button writes in, love your show, Turks. Never miss it. Again, thank you guys. Very, very nice of you. Appreciate it. HissyFit writes in on Twitter, #TYT Live, to talk to us when the show is live, and that's 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on TYTnetwork.com or YouTube.com/TYT. HissyFit writes in, how come Rush Limbaugh doesn't have a warrant out on him? Isn't calling a hoax on hurricanes just like crying fire in a theater? Look, I don't want to get into criminal investigations here, and he can say whatever he wants. Whatever you do, just don't listen to him. Blade Liger writes in, I like this TYT going old school with rock music in the movie clips. Old Turk writes in about the last story I did on the conservatives with their 25 million views. He says, 25 million views. That's a good one. And then, this is jumbled here, but somebody wrote in, Kyle Kulinski is always kicking ass. Well, I agree with that as well, brothers and sisters. He's doing a great job. You should definitely check out Secular Talk. You should also check out shoptyt.com for this shirt. Resist with Rosa Parks, the original resistor. And then look at what Casper's got over there.
Yeah.
Kofefe. Every time I wear that shirt, I get comments. Every time. In fact, in the postgame today, I want to tell you more fun stories from from jogging. When I go out jogging, what people say to me.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I was going to say, like, no one wants to hear about people's workout routines.
Oh, no. I'm not going to bore you. Okay. It's fun stories about what people shout at me.
Okay. All right.
TYTnetwork.com /join to become a member to hear the post game. All right, Casper, what's up?
All right, let me just fix my FB. Okay, got it. Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos made an announcement today that did concern quite a few victims of rape and sexual assault. She is scrapping a memo sent out by the Education Department back in 2011 under the Obama administration, which essentially directed schools that receive federal funding on how to deal with accusations of campus sexual assault, harassment, and rape. Now, Betsy DeVos had hinted that she planned to do away with the directive, and she has done so today. First, I want to go to the video where she announces part of the reason why she made this decision. Take a look.
One rape is one too many. One assault is one too many. One aggressive act of harassment is one too many. One person denied due process is one too many. There is no way to avoid the devastating reality of campus sexual misconduct. Lives have been lost. Lives of victims and lives of the accused. And we're here today because the previous administration helped elevate this issue in American public life. But good intentions alone are not enough. Survivors, victims of a lack of due process, and campus administrators have all told me that the current approach does a disservice to everyone involved.
Break down what the approach was under the Obama administration. I'm sure some of you might have seen some coverage of this on other outlets, and none of them actually delve into the details of what the Obama administration called for. And, you know, Betsy DeVos makes some pretty heavy allegations against it, indicating that the definition for sexual assault was too broad. No, it wasn't. It was actually pretty specific. Now, it's not to say that it didn't have some problems, and we will get to those problems in just a second, but I want to be clear about one thing. Betsy DeVos is coming from a place of, hey, you know what? We're being really unfair to those who are accused, okay? So she is essentially turning the accused into the victims here, when in reality, the biggest problem that led to the Obama administration putting out that directive was the fact that in many cases, universities and college campuses refused to do a proper investigation or investigation at all when a student accused another of sexual assault or rape. So that was when the federal government got involved.
So, important context here. When she says the rights of the victims and the accused have to be balanced, that's not a controversial statement. Should the accused have rights? Of course, it's America. Of course they should have rights. The question is, what do you emphasize? When the overwhelming majority of the cases turn out to be true, and you then start calling it 50-50, I'm not sure you've got your priorities straight. It's not to say that the accused shouldn't have rights. Of course they should. But once you give them rights and it turns out they are guilty, and you treat it as if it's a 50-50 situation when the stats don't bear that out, that's a huge problem. The second problem is that the colleges and universities have an incentive to cover this stuff up because it makes them look bad, which then affects the people that apply, the people that come, it affects their funding. So that goes to the core of what they care about. Mm-hmm. And this doesn't acknowledge that at all. In fact, it takes the thing that acknowledged it and said, hey, don't brush this under the rug. Make sure you're treating it proportionally and in a truly and correctly balanced way, and says, no, let's scrap that. Let's not do that at all.
Right. So let me be absolutely clear about one thing. Obama's directive, or the Education Department's directive under the Obama administration, made clear that the investigation did have to be impartial. So what you just said about, so she makes it seem as though the Education Department under Obama came out and said, no. As soon as someone's accused, they're guilty. That's it. No, it said,
that's ridiculous.
Hey, you need to investigate it, okay? You need to be impartial as you do this investigation. And look, there is a different burden of proof when it comes to a criminal case. So if this alleged rape, for instance, goes to trial and it is a criminal case, the burden of proof is much higher. That person needs to be found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt because that is a serious allegation and you're talking about a criminal offense. When it comes to a college campus, though, they're not lawyers. There's no judge. This is not a criminal system. This is a university making a decision as to whether or not this rape happened, and if it did happen, has it created a hostile environment that distracts the victim from learning and feeling comfortable on campus, and then the university decides what it should do. But again, the burden of proof is a little lower for the universities because we're not talking about a criminal case, we're talking about a university in doing their own investigation to figure out what's best for those involved.
All right, one more piece of context, because if you're saying, aha, I knew it, it's a lower burden of proof, that's they're railroading these guys, it should always be an incredibly high burden of proof. No, there's different contexts. For example, civil trials. Civil trials don't require you to be 98% certain, 99% certain. They just require you to be 51% certain, because you've got to decide who's right, who's wrong. So you might or might not remember this. So O.J., of course, got acquitted. Everybody remembers that in his criminal trial. But then the Goldman family, who lost their son, sued O.J. in a civil trial, and they won easily, because it was a different burden of proof, because he likely did it. It just in the criminal trial, they couldn't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right. So again,
in some contexts, it makes perfect sense to have a different burden of proof, because they're not lawyers and justices and judges at the university, and they've got to make a decision: who's right, who's wrong. How do we make sure there's the least amount of damage here?
Right, and again, these are school officials who do not have the power to convict someone of a felony, which is why the burden of proof is lower. And by the way, the burden of proof is still very high, because they have to, through their investigation, find that the person who has been accused more than likely did it. Okay? So again, it's a lower burden of proof, but they have to provide evidence indicating that this individual more than likely did it.
I'm just going to say one last thing, because these you might be hearing right-wing propaganda out there, and they make it seem like, all you have to say is, he did it, and then they take you out of college. It's not remotely true. They go through an entire long process, because nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to take a kid who didn't do it and go, I don't know, somebody said it, so what? Let's just throw it out. By the way, on this show, we've defended many people who we thought didn't do it. Mm-hmm. And there was big debates about the mattress woman at Columbia, and I think she was preposterous, and I don't want to get back into those debates. Of course, as progressives, we value the rights of the accused. But you also have to make sure that you're protecting the women on campus and men if they're being sexually assaulted.
Right, and there is a percentage of men who do face sexual assault on campus as well. So this isn't just a female victim issue. Now, back to DeVos, I want to go to graphic 3 to give you a better sense of where she stands on this. She says that those that use a system biased toward finding a student responsible for sexual misconduct are also committing discrimination. DeVos suggests that the definition of sexual assault is too broad, and too many cases involve student and faculty simply for speaking their minds or teaching their classes. That is patently untrue. And again, I'm going to reiterate, if you've seen coverage of this story anywhere else, they never get to the details of what that directive said. So it was 20 pages long. I wanted to make sure I read every word to really understand it and give you guys the facts. So let's get to that.
Okay, sorry, one last thing there, because that statement shows you what DeVos is about. Because when she says, let's be balanced, there's no harm in saying that. Of course you should be. But when she says that you could be accused for just saying words, that's just not true. That shows you she has bad intent. She's purposely lying about what the policy says. Look, I was a conservative when I was on college campuses, and I remember one time somebody said that I should not be allowed to speak in class because I was such a large man that my words intimidated them. Okay, so I fought that nonsense. And by the way, you know what the liberal dean said at the college? That's nonsense. Of course you're allowed to speak. Doesn't matter how large you are. I mean, how preposterous. We're never going to agree to stuff like that, but that's not what the policy does. DeVos is lying about it.
Now, here are the relevant portions of the memo sent out by the Education Department back in 2011. Now, they did define sexual violence rather specifically. They said sexual violence, as that term is used in this letter, refers to physical sexual acts perpetrated against a person's will or where a person is incapable of giving consent due to the victim's use of drugs or alcohol. An individual also may be unable to give consent due to an intellectual or other disability. So that is what we're talking about there. And I don't know, I mean, I don't consider myself that smart, but I understood the specific definition laid before me that describes exactly what the sexual violence is and what the university is expected to investigate should a complaint come forward. Now,
maybe she's twisting it on purpose. Well, if the woman says no, and you rape her anyway, and then they say, well, I mean, what are you just punishing the guy for language just because she said no? He was supposed to stop. Is that the point of her mentioning language? I mean, come on, man.
So let me give you more.
They have bad intent. They really do. Sorry, go ahead.
So what did this letter tell universities that receive federal funding? What did they tell them they need to do? Okay, so they laid it out. Here are the bullet points. Disseminate a notice of non-discrimination. Essentially, let everyone on that campus know we're not going to discriminate against you based on your gender, your sexual orientation. That is standard Title IX requirements. So there's nothing controversial about that. Designate at least one employee to coordinate its efforts to comply with and carry out its responsibilities under Title IX. So just hire one person who actually carries out the responsibilities of Title IX. One person.
Well, if you're going to change that, I know you're not going to go up. The only other number is 0. So is that a balanced approach? Ridiculous.
Adopt and publish grievance procedures providing for prompt and equitable, I'm going to repeat that again, equitable resolution of student and employee sex discrimination complaints. Okay, so where is this, overburdensome for universities? Because, again, the reason why this letter was sent out by the Department of Education was because there was an increasing number of women coming forward and alleging that their universities refused to even investigate it. And so what the Education Department said was, hey, look, we want you guys to do a thorough and prompt investigation and find a solution or resolution, okay? You have to do that because you don't want to create an environment where students don't feel safe. Now, here's another thing that I want to read to you, and again, this is exact wording from the letter that was sent out. The school's inquiry must in all cases be prompt, thorough, and impartial. In cases involving potential criminal conduct, school personnel must determine, consistent with state and local law, whether appropriate law enforcement or other authorities should be notified. This is just, look, it's just, they're going to find people guilty immediately as soon as they're accused. That's what this letter is all about.
Anna, Obama administration, by demanding impartiality, obviously meant be biased.
No, but here's the thing, okay? This administration, this current administration, just wants to undo anything that Obama did, right? It doesn't matter if the Obama administration had executive orders or passed or pushed for legislation that made sense and actually made people's lives a little better. Doesn't matter if it's climate change, doesn't matter if it has to do with sexual assault on college campuses, doesn't matter if it has to do with the LGBT community being allowed to join our military. Doesn't matter how much sense those policies made. The Trump administration hates the Obama administration so much that they just want to undo anything that he did with no rhyme or reason.
But Anna, to be fair to them, they're also right-wingers and they believe this stuff. They think sexual assault, the balanced approach to that is maybe having 0 people look into it instead of having 1 person look into it. And so, you say tomato, I say tomato. You say it was sexual assault because she said no. I say, well, are you really being fair to the guy? So, and Betsy DeVos looks pleasant, and she went to her nomination hearings and was like, oh, no, I'll be so fair. Ben Carson did the same thing. Gorsuch did it for the Supreme Court, and the press talked about how pleasant they looked and the pleasant words that they said. It doesn't change what their policies are. Their policies are oftentimes barbaric, and so the minute they have an opportunity to implement it, they're going to implement it. And so then don't vote for Republicans if you are going to send your daughters to college and you're worried or your sons, and you're worried what might happen. So, and don't get surprised when they do, because this is what they believe in.
It's pretty sad. Anyway, so what is expected to happen moving forward? The current education department would like some public opinion on how universities should handle it, and they, of course, want to get the thoughts and opinions of individuals who have been against this letter that was sent out by the Education Department. We'll see how it goes, but it's not looking good.
Now, they don't care about public opinion. They'll take a bunch of right-wing trolls' comments and go, see, we knew it. We knew it. The poor accused, there's no, this issue of sexual assault is overhyped and yada, yada. So that's just an excuse for doing whatever they want.
All right, let's take a really quick break. When we come back, we'll dive right into Facebook selling ads to Russian troll farms. Apparently there's some evidence of that now. So stick around, we'll give you that and more.
Hey, Jen, what's up?
Aaron, I forgot my email password. What is it?
EASSWORD.
It's the post-game show. Brett Ehrlich and Kim Horcher join me.
I think there's an interesting thing to be written or done about the logic of repealing EPA regulations, because that is baby killing.
Yeah.
Like, you're a baby killer. Like, everything you're doing is aborting babies. And you can go specifically to, like, Monsanto and pesticides that end up creating birth defects that abort babies. So, in a way, that is an abortion clinic that you're starting by repealing FDA regulations and EPA regulations.
That's right. But we know what they really mean when they say that they're pro-life.
Right, and that's the thing for me is, like, I'm tired of everyone speaking in code and rushing to, like, confirm their pre-existing biases. I just want them to tell me what they're actually pissed about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it seems like with the things that we were talking about on one show were like, people are okay with Trump having his own private server.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you got mad at someone else for
But
that.
her emails.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, so, okay, it's fine. You know you're bullshit. I know you're bullshit. So tell me what you're actually mad about, because it's probably your dad.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably your mom and your dad, and that's why you're mad, and it's created this crazy shit from this probably very personal relationship you have with your parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it, and you're angry and frustrated, and you're talking in strange codes and giving certain people passes and other people not. You read headlines and articles in this sprint to find some way to confirm what you already believe.
Yeah.
And you stop when you get it, and you don't read the end of it. Like, I get it, but tell me what you're actually mad about.
Okay, you know what? This is a good therapeutic exercise to close out the post-game show. Why don't we each state what we are the most angry about?
I'm the most angry about boycotts right now.
Oh.
Just like, boycott it, that thing's the worst. Like, if I were to get into a business right now, it would be litmus paper sales. Because everyone's like, litmus test on that, fuck you, boycott, delete.
Yeah.
And it's like, read the history of boycotts. Which ones are good and which ones are like, you weren't going to buy that shit anyway.
I am angry about willful ignorance. I am angry about throwing away data that we have applied intellectual power to for a reason. I am tired of the rejection of intellectualism, or deciding that intellectual people are elitist or somehow they think they're better than you. Maybe they are. They know things, and you should try to know things about something. Forcing yourself into the dark is never going to bring us forward. It's never going to end up with a positive result.
guys, back on the Young Turks. I'm having a little bit of trouble with my tweeter machine here, so I've only got one that I can read clearly. Jessica Allison writes, and if the Obama administration had found a cure for cancer, Trump would ban the medicine in the U.S. That's how petty he is.
I would not be surprised.
Agreed. All right, that's all I got for you guys. Sorry, I wish I had more. Anyways, we do have amazing stories. Go forward, Casper, go.
All right. The special counsel's investigation into possible Russian collusion by the Trump administration continues, and through this investigation, we're finding more and more interesting tidbits about what happened during this past election, information that was unraveled by our intelligence communities, and now we have even more elaborate detail into just how far Russia went in order to play a role in our elections. Now, recently, Facebook let investigators know that through their own investigation into their ad sales, they found that they had sold ads to individuals who were basically working for the Internet Research Agency that is a Russian troll farm. These are individuals who purposely put out fake information or propaganda in order to lead to divisiveness and negativity and other things that could potentially sway some of the more vulnerable, undecided voters out there. So representatives of Facebook told congressional investigators Wednesday that the social network has discovered that it sold ads during the U.S. presidential campaign to this shadowy Russian company seeking to target voters. They traced the ad sales totaling $100,000 to a Russian troll farm with a history of pushing pro-Kremlin propaganda. So there were about 3,300 ads that had digital footprints that led to this particular Russian company. Again, the Internet Research Agency. Now,
can I just say real quick that ex-employees of that particular company have come out and said, yes, we definitely push pro-Kremlin propaganda in other instances. And this is quotes from earlier because this story about Facebook just broke, obviously. And so, for example, Boris Nemtsov, who is a Putin critic, was murdered in 2015. And this same company immediately started doing personal attacks on his character after he was killed. Gee, I wonder if the Russian government killed him. I can't quite tell. But this is what they do. After, they kill someone, they smear them. Unfortunately, sometimes we see that here in America as well. But they then turn their trolling to outside of Russia, and in this case, to our elections.
To our elections. So the earliest instance that Facebook found was back in 2015 when, the election season started to really ramp up. And at that point, the ads that were put out there, the content that was put out there by this Russian troll farm focused specifically on Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, although Facebook is refusing to identify which candidate these trolls were endorsing.
Come on. That's what they're saying. You know which one it was. Everybody knows it. Hey, look, if it turns out Facebook says later, hey, you know what, they were actually supporting Hillary Clinton, that would be amazing, and we would report that, and we would go, wow, we didn't see that coming.
Right.
And that's also terrible, by the way, if they are supporting Hillary Clinton. We don't want any meddling of the elections, no matter whose side they were on.
Right.
But reality. Of course it was for Donald Trump.
So here's what else Facebook found through their own investigation. Their teams discovered 470 suspicious and likely fraudulent Facebook accounts and pages that it believes operated out of Russia, had links to the company, and were involved in promoting the ads. Now, although they declined to say which candidate the ads favored, now most of the ads appear to focus on amplifying divisive social and political messages across the ideological spectrum, touching on topics from LGBT matters to race issues to immigration to gun rights.
I want to pause here because this is super important. Guys, you got to be careful about what's going on the internet because there are troll farms out there and their whole job is to divide us. So mission number one for Russia was sow division inside the United States, cause chaos. Mission number two was, can you imagine if Trump got elected? That would be amazing. since he owes us all that money and we have compromat on him. Now, that part is my speculation, backed up by overwhelming circumstantial evidence that's already public.
Right.
But I think that they probably, like a lot of other people, thought it was a long shot, but their ads did go towards, very likely, and based on what we know already, went towards Donald Trump and attacked Hillary Clinton, but not exclusively. New York Times did a story about 6 months ago that there was another troll farm out of Macedonia, and they were trying to divide the Democrats. Now, again, that helps Trump and the Republicans, but the way that they were dividing Democrats were by posing as Bernie bros, who would then say sexist and outrageous stuff to other Democrats, so that the Hillary Clinton team could then go, you see that? You shouldn't trust any of the Bernie people. Here are these Bernie bros saying sexist things. It turns out it was the Russians.
Right.
That's amazing. That's a New York Times story. This one is a Washington Post story. So when you see people that go on these hot button issues and try to provoke you, calm down. It might be a troll in Eastern Europe, and don't buy into that. Now, when you see actual human beings on TV dividing you, that's real. Okay, and so that's a different category. But they want us to be at each other's throats on social media. So don't help them do that.
Don't help them do that. And, it's incredible how much it worked, because I'm sure we all experienced it, where you see an article that has outlandish allegations and claims, and people will buy into it, and then people engage into debates as to whether or not it's real, whether it's Hillary Clinton having a terminal illness, or Seth Rich allegedly getting murdered by someone in the DNC, or Pizzagate. Like, all sorts of nonsense kept popping up on Facebook. And, I don't know if those specific conspiracies and those specific fake news stories came specifically from these Russian troll farms, but that's the kind of stuff that you saw on social media. And when you consider the fact that a lot of people get their information from what's shared on social media, it's concerning. Now, the next
step... Can I just say on that issue, because I took a lot of heat from folks when I said Hillary Clinton was not terminally ill. Well, I'm waiting for your apology, because she hasn't died yet. You were convinced that she has some sort of brain tumor or something like that. And
but
by the way,
she was coughing a lot, like how
and by the way,
on the show.
A lot of it, some of it was you guys meaning generally some tiny sliver of the audience, right? And some of it was the trolls who were like, oh, jank, or whatever, right? And then CNN, etc., whoever they directed to, oh, you're just shilling for her when she obviously is mentally disabled. I'm like, I'm seeing the debates. There is someone mentally disabled in the debates, and it isn't Hillary Clinton. Okay? So, and it goes with the conspiracy theories on the right as well, where they're like, oh, Obama's going to do the FEMA camps. He left office. There was no FEMA camps. I'm still waiting for the apology. So, anyway, and some of it helped Hillary Clinton. And they used that to say, aha, here's a Twitter account who no one can trace that says something sexist and pretended to be for Bernie Sanders. And the Clinton machine loved that. And they would purposely pick that up and go, you see that? Everybody who's in favor of the most liberal senator in the country is sexist and racist. They use it for their own purposes. So there was a lot of bad intent on a lot of sides here.
Absolutely. One other thing that I wanted to bring up is, now that we have this information, it's up to investigators to figure out whether or not this is something that the Russian troll farm did on its own with the influence of the Kremlin, or if there was some potential possible involvement by the Trump camp. Whether or not the Trump camp directed individuals to do what they did with these Facebook ads. So the investigation continues. Again, it's a very slow and steady drip of information that we're getting, but considering the fact that in November, Mark Zuckerberg completely denied that there was a fake news problem on Facebook, it's interesting to see how far they've come in kind of accepting what's really going on.
Now there's a ton of connections between Donald Trump and the Russian government during the campaign and way before the campaign. But to be fair, there is no smoking gun yet on this issue of did the Trump campaign know about the troll farms. I have not seen evidence of that yet, and Facebook has not presented evidence of that yet. So I just want to be fair and clear on that. Why are we suspicious of them? I mean, there's...
they lied about the meeting that they had with those Russian officials.
And 1,000 other things.
Yeah.
Donald Trump Jr. just came out and said, "Oh, I met with the Russian lawyers, and I know in the email I said I love it that they were going to give me information about Hillary Clinton from a foreign source I'm not supposed to get it from." I didn't mean I love it that I'm going to get that illegal information. I meant that I love it that they were setting up the meeting. It was such a nice thing for them to do. I wasn't trying to get bad information about Hillary Clinton. I was just trying to make sure she was fit for office. Wanted to make sure she was okay. Oh, come on. Does anybody believe that? Even if you're a right-winger, you can't believe that. Come on. So they obviously did want to work with the Russians in some ways. Whether they actually work with them in this way is yet to be determined.
Exactly. All right, let's switch gears to other news. Kentucky currently has one abortion clinic where women can have their reproductive rights and carry out an abortion should they choose to not go through with a pregnancy. However, lawmakers in Kentucky are fighting rather aggressively to shut that last abortion clinic down, and the way that they plan on doing so is by using and enforcing a law that forces them to have hospital admitting privileges. Now, there are many red states that have tried to implement a similar policy. Courts have already ruled on this policy, but nonetheless, the right wing continues to fight on with these ridiculous arguments. Now, hospital admitting privileges essentially make the claim that, well, this abortion clinic needs to make sure that if anything goes wrong with this abortion, they have the ability to send this individual that they're treating to a hospital. Now, the problem with that is, in most red states, a lot of these hospitals refuse to give admitting privileges to the clinics because the hospitals themselves have, some religious slant and feel like it's against their morals to do so. But in this case, the abortion clinic did have hospital admitting privileges. It just was considered insufficient by the governor of Kentucky. Now, earlier this year, Kentucky's Cabinet for Health and Family Services sent the clinic a letter informing the clinic that it was out of compliance with state regulations that require clinics to have standing agreements with local hospitals and ambulance services to transfer patients in case of medical emergencies. Lawyers, though, for EMW, which is the clinic that stands, the only clinic in Kentucky, argue that the state is attempting to enforce baseless regulations, pointing to the 2016 Supreme Court ruling in Whole Women's Health v. Hellerstedt. That ruling found that Texas, which had required abortion clinics to have surgical center level facilities and abortion providers to have admitting privileges at nearby hospitals, constituted an undue burden on women seeking abortions.
So let me begin to break that down. So first of all, I thought Republicans were against burdensome regulations. Turns out they love burdensome regulations when it suits their purposes. I thought they were for small government. Turns out they love big government with all of its regulations, again, between you and your doctor. Okay, so you're not surprised by that. Second of all, that is a very conservative Supreme Court in 2016 saying, look, it is unconstitutional to interfere with a woman's right to an abortion. And the state of Texas clearly imposed an undue burden that interfered with their right to choose based on nonsense, burdensome regulations that said, oh, you have to follow this procedure and that procedure with nearby hospitals. And you know why you're doing that. And the conservative Supreme Court said, you're not tricking anyone. We know you're trying to limit abortions, and these are not actual necessary regulations. Again, enjoy that irony that even a conservative Supreme Court says it's Republicans who are for burdensome, unnecessary regulations. Now, nonetheless, Kentucky says, I don't care. I'm going to pass the same exact law, even though it got declared unconstitutional a year ago.
Right.
Okay? And then on top of that, it turns out, no, this clinic was actually following the rules of Kentucky and did have relationships with those hospitals exactly like they were supposed to, and they've had them for years and years and years. And Matt Bevin comes in, and he's like, yeah, I don't like the law. I'm like Trump. He doesn't like the law. Sheriff Joe doesn't like the law. So when we don't like the law, we just violate it. So he's like, the regulations that we previously said were sufficient, I'm just going to say now they are quote-unquote efficient. So, voila, I just did an executive order in a sense at the state level saying that I'm going to impose further regulations on you, and there's no way you can meet them because it's my judgment call.
Right. So they make it increasingly difficult for these clinics to be able to meet the regulations. And as soon as they do meet the regulations, they'll make the regulations even more stringent, even more impossible to follow through with.
But in this case, they did meet the regulations.
Right.
Bevan comes in and goes, that's like your opinion, man. I say you didn't meet the regulations, so how can I meet them? I'm not going to tell you.
It shows you how disingenuous they are, right? Because they don't actually think that these procedures are so dangerous that they need to have these very specific hospital admitting privileges in case of an emergency. No, they just want to make it as difficult as possible for this one abortion clinic to remain standing. And so a federal judge had already ruled on this and said, okay, you're not allowed to shut down this clinic while this case is pending. And so a federal court will make a decision on this legislation soon. But the thing that I want to bring up is it is a huge waste of taxpayer money in the state of Kentucky because, again, the Supreme Court has already ruled on this. And so, okay, you're going to go to a federal court. You're going to spend taxpayer money to fight this. And in the end, you know, if justice plays out the way that it's supposed to, it will be found as an undue burden and the clinic will not shut down.
And Matt Bevan, stop lying. So we know you're pro-life and you admit you're pro-life. And just say, I want to overturn Roe versus Wade. I know this is an illegal law. I know it's an unconstitutional law, but I want to do it anyway. Just because every single year I want to go to the Supreme Court and try again and again. But you're not being honest about it. Instead, you're now saying you're a champion of burdensome regulations.
That's right.
Okay? And it's a lie. And your Republican constituents know it's a lie too. So, okay, great. Matt Bevan for further government regulations.
Also, I just wanted to quickly note that yesterday, Cenk did a story about a right-winger who wrote a column in the New York Post, I believe, about how we should nuke North Korea. Because fuck them. Right?
Mm-hmm.
A conservative said that. Let's nuke North Korea and kill all of these innocent individuals, preemptively, by the way. And this is the same group of people that think, oh, we're pro-life. We can't let women have abortions because you're killing people. You can't kill babies. What do you think you're going to do when you nuke North Korea? They're just, it's
you know what, Anna, that's
look, real quick, let me just finish my point, because I say this every time we do stories involving reproductive rights. There are definitely Christians out there or conservatives out there in the country who genuinely do believe it's life at the moment of conception, okay? And they live their lives the way that they feel is fit, the way that they feel is moral, but they're usually not the ones that are like, you know, pounding their chests talking about how they have to do away with reproductive rights. The ones who do pound their chests and talk about how they need to do away with reproductive rights, those are individuals who don't really care about life because their policies and what they really push for reveals what they really care about. They just want to control women. They hate that women have the ability to decide their own destiny. They hate that women have the ability to take birth control and decide when they become mothers, if they become mothers. It takes power away from incredibly insecure, pathetic men. And Matt Bevan falls right under that category.
Okay, you made such a great point there, and one I hadn't thought of before. The person you're referring to is Ralph Peters. He's a so-called security analyst for Fox News and writes for the New York Post. And he wrote, better 1 million dead North Koreans than we take any chances with any American lives. So, and he argued for a preemptive strike where we would kill millions of innocent civilians. Now, what I hadn't considered, Anna, is not only are there babies, women, children, men, grandmothers, grandfathers that would be incinerated alive in a nuclear strike, there would also be fetuses. So you would actually be in favor of mass abortions, because when you detonate a nuke and millions of people die, that is probably, you know, in the neighborhood of hundreds of fetuses who you consider life, that's apparently the only life you care about.
That's right.
That would also be incinerated. So I guess Ralph Peters, Rupert Murdoch, who owns the New York Post, and all those right-wingers who argue for that position are not at all pro-life. They hate the pro-life position. Just be honest with who you are.
Yep. All right, let's move on to somewhat lighter news. It's a little international news. Japan Japan's population continues to shrink, and part of the reason why is because the birth rate in the country is incredibly low, and that is a problem that we've brought up and talked about on the show quite a bit. However, it is having a real negative impact on the economy in Japan. The workforce needs more workers, and even though there is a problem with the population shrinking, there's also the issue of foreign workers. Japan doesn't have a lot of foreign workers. And so as a result, owners of companies are trying to think of creative ways to get people who don't typically work back into the workforce. And they're focusing specifically on housewives. So there are a lot of convenience store chains or fast food restaurants that are now trying to engage with housewives, and they're trying to convince them to come back into the workforce and go through some training just so they can have enough people to run their companies. Now, McDonald's Japan announced it is beginning a 2-month recruitment drive targeted at housewives under a slogan that roughly translates as McDonald's, no problem, promising new hires both flexibility and good growth prospects. So,
can I just say that's a terrible slogan? McDonald's, no problem.
I know.
Why? Was there a problem?
But they're translating it from Japanese. So I'm sure it means yeah, I know it's a pain in the ass to work, but don't worry, we'll be flexible. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
right?
Maybe that's a better translation.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So housewives, one executive at McDonald's says housewives are a valued labor force because they are very hospitable and are very conscious of cleanliness in our restaurants.
I'm glad there's no stereotypes involved, though.
Yeah. Look, in Japan, the pay gap is actually pretty bad, okay? It is the second worst country in terms of a gender pay gap. So,
among economically developed countries.
Obviously, yes. But, that probably speaks to why that type of comment is openly made and people don't criticize it,
Yep, no question. South Korea, by the way, is the worst in disparity. But to be fair to the Japanese, their female participation rate in the economy is higher than ours.
Yes.
So more women work in Japan than they do in the United States.
That's kind of bananas.
That's amazing, yes.
Yeah. So also keep in mind that the percentage of housewives in the workforce in Japan is about 20%. The percentage of Japanese women in the workforce experienced a sharp drop once women enter their 30s, from 80% at age 29 to just over 71% from the ages of 30 to 39. So as they get older and they have kids, they're less likely to be in the workforce. However, the leader of Japan is trying to change that by making childcare more available, by encouraging women to go out there into the workforce after they have kids. And again, Japan's female labor market participation rate has surpassed that of the United States and is no longer low compared to other advanced countries.
And finally, again, to stay on giving them credit, it's Shinzo Abe's plan here did work, and it brought more women back into the workforce with a very simple idea, as Anna pointed out. They got kids, especially the older women who then want to get back into the workforce after initially having kids. So you got to give them child services. Mm-hmm. And once you do that, it turns out they want to work. But here in America, we're like, oh no, you can barely take any time off, and it might not be paid at all if you have kids right in the beginning, and then later, child care, we're not going to give you any stinking child care. Here's some bootstraps. So it turns out if you do child care, more women will work. Makes sense.
More women will work. And look, Abe saw that as an economic solution, whereas here in the United States, it's not seen as an economic solution. It is. It absolutely is. If you want more women to go out there and to not feel burdened by the costs of childcare, you want them to be part of the economy, to be productive. By the way, people who stay home and take care of their kids are also productive, but I mean economically productive specifically. If you want it to happen, you need to make it a little easier on them. We don't have mandatory maternity or paternity leave, and we also can't afford, most of us can't afford how expensive childcare is right now. It's so crazy expensive. Like, how do people do it? Like, what if you have kids, what do you do?
In the big cities, it's just insane.
If you don't
live by your parents and family, you're totally screwed. And the government's not going to help you, nobody's going to help you. And see, I wonder why the younger generation thinks a mixed economy is not such a bad idea.
Exactly.
All right, what's next?
All right, the story that I've been dying to get to. A woman threw her own feces outside of a window during a debate. Not a debate.
Now that's an awesome Freudian slip. Okay. In a debate with Bernie Sanders now. Okay. That's not right. I denounce and reject ourselves. Okay.
A woman threw her own feces outside of a window during a date, and after that feces got stuck somehow near the windowsill, she tried to get it out and then got stuck in said windowsill, which made it the worst date of all time. Now, this story is amazing, and I don't know how it made it to the headlines. I don't know how BBC got this story, but it is one of my favorite stories ever. It starts with a Tinder date, okay? This couple gets together, they have dinner, they're having a good time, right? And then they decide, let's go back to the apartment, have some wine, have some more fun, right?
Don't it?
Now, in the middle of this wine drinking and fun having, the woman in question realizes that she needs to use the potty, and so she goes to the bathroom, does number 2, and panics when she realizes that the toilet's not flushing.
Not her fault. That seems to be the guy's fault. You got to maintain your toilets.
Now, you can't leave, feces in the toilet. Like, that's embarrassing. It's a first date. So she decides to somehow reach in, grab it, and try to throw it out the window.
Because that is less embarrassing.
Oh, that is... No, but, I don't know what do you do? What do you do? Leave it there? No. You can't leave it there.
No, you can't. Because it's the least bad option.
Okay.
I know we're not voting for lesser of two evils, but you can't scoop it out. You just got to say, hey, dude, your toilet doesn't work. That's a disaster, but anyways.
Well, at least we know that she has a healthy diet, because that was a solid poo, right? What if it wasn't solid? Then what is she going to do? She has no options then. Okay, so she throws it out the window. It somehow gets stuck. And then she panics because it's easy to see it, where it got stuck. And so she felt like she needed to be honest with the man that she was on a date with. His name is Liam Smith. So she goes back into the room and she's like, yo, I threw my poop out the window. It's stuck.
Yo,
we need
British. Anyway,
yo.
I do declare, I have pooped in your bathroom. Then I reached in, scooped it up, and I figured out who number 2 works for.
Quite a controversy. So then they get together and try to figure out how they can retrieve the poo that has now been stuck near the window. All right, now let me give you the details as written by the New York Daily News. Now, let's go to graphic 24. His date was able to... sorry. Let's go to graphic 23. The window the woman used opened into a gap that was separated by another window, which is where the poop was stuck. Smith said he left the bathroom to get a hammer to smash the window, but his date decided to try to climb through and got trapped. Yeah. So at this point, Liam Smith knows what's going on. He's like, okay, we need to retrieve the poo. Let me go get a hammer and break the window. And so as he was doing that, she's like, no, I'm taking matters into my own hands, which apparently is a really bad idea for her to ever do. Tries to go through, and then she gets stuck. And at that point, they got to call the authorities. So they call the authorities, and, nightmare. They luckily rescued her. We have pictures of the incident, graphics 26 and 27. There's the woman in question.
Oh my God, as if it wasn't bad enough. I'm stuck. And I'm right next to the poo.
Oh God.
Someone else. Oh my God, is that her feet up in the ceiling?
Yes. How did this happen?
How did she do that?
I don't know.
I just cannot understand how this story could get any more disastrous.
Okay, here's the thing. You threw the poo out the window because you didn't want to be embarrassed in front of a man that you're on a date with. But then you proceeded to get embarrassed with several men on the scene. Let's go back to that picture. Oh, it's terrible. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Okay, so this whole incident destroyed his window, and he's a struggling postgraduate student, and he's like, I need money to fix this window. So what he did was he started a crowdfunding page, and he was hoping to get $300. He ended up getting $1,200. I'm sorry, euros. Let me be specific, euros. So he got 1,200 euros. He and his date got together and donated what they didn't need to charities. So they're great. And guess what? He really liked her. So they're going out on another date.
Oh, hey, you better fix that toilet, son. There's so many amazing parts of this story, and the twist at the end is even better. Yeah. It's like, who gives them money because you know why? Because we're amused by the story and we're good people at heart, And with all the terrible things that happen on the internet, there's still wonderful things.
Yes.
And people look at that and go, God, I feel bad about the poo controversy.
What can poo do for you?
Apparently get you 1,200 euros, which they then mainly give to charity. If they get married out of this, it is going to be one hell of a story to tell the kids.
I can't believe she reached for her poo and threw it out the window. That is amazing. This is my favorite story of the year.
Well, I guess we now know what happens when the poo hits the fan.
What a shitty situation.
Or at least the window. I guess if it wasn't bad enough. All right, guys, we're out of time. We do have a great post game for you guys where I will tell you funny things people shout at me when I'm jogging. We do a lot of personal stories in the post game. TYTnetwork.com/join to get the post game, to get the whole 2-hour show commercial free. Listen to it anytime you want. And then, of course, Aggressive Progressive is also tonight. It's at 6 o'clock. Watch it live, 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern. Watch it live on TYTnetwork.com. And then get the whole show if you're a member as well. We'll see you in the post game for members. Bye-bye.
Great shot. Perfect shot. Great shot. Perfect shot. Lights on. Great shot. Lights on. Great shot. Perfect shot. Lights out.